On the one hand, put yourself in their shoes. To write a really good summary, you must be able to suspend your own beliefs for a time and put yourself in the shoes of someone else. This means playing what the writing theorist Peter Elbow calls the believing game, in which you try to inhabit the worldview of those whose conversation you are joining, and whom you are perhaps even disagreeing with, and try to see their argument from their perspective. This ability to temporarily suspend one's own convictions is a hallmark of good actors, who must convincingly become characters whom in real life they may detest. As a writer, when you play the believing game well, readers should not be able to tell whether you agree or disagree with the ideas you are summarizing. If, as a writer, you cannot or will not suspend your own beliefs in this way, you are likely to produce summaries that are so obviously biased that they undermine your credibility with readers. Consider the following summary. David Zinchenko's article, Don't Blame the Eater, is nothing more than an angry rant in which he accuses the fast food companies of an evil conspiracy to make people fat. I disagree because these companies have to make money. If you review what Zinchenko actually says, you should immediately see that this summary amounts to an unfair distortion. While Zinchenko does argue that the practices of the fast food industry have the effect of making people fat, his tone is never angry, and he never goes so far as to suggest that the fast food industry conspires to make people fat with deliberately evil intent. Another telltale sign of this writer's failure to give Zinchenko a fair hearing is the hasty way he abandons the summary after only one sentence and rushes on to his own response. So eager is this writer to disagree that he not only caricatures what Zinchenko says, but also gives the article a hasty, superficial reading. Granted, there are many writing situations in which, because of matters of proportion, a one or two sentence summary is precisely what you want. Indeed, as writing professor Karen Lunsford, whose own research focuses on argument theory, points out, it is standard in the natural and social sciences to summarize the work of others quickly, in one pithy sentence or phrase, as in the following example. Several studies suggest that these policies are harmless. Moreover, other studies argue that they even have benefits. But if your argument is to respond in writing to a single author like Zinchenko, you will need to tell your readers enough about his or her argument so that they can assess its merits on their own, independent of you. When a writer fails to provide enough summary or to engage in a rigorous or serious enough summary, he or she often falls prey to what we call the closest cliché syndrome, in which what gets summarized is not the view the author in question has actually expressed, but a familiar cliché that the writer mistakes for the author's view, sometimes because the writer believes it and mistakenly assumes the author must too. So, for example, Martin Luther King Jr.'s passionate defense of civil disobedience in Letter from Birmingham Jail might be summarized not as the defense of political protest that it actually is, but as a plea for everyone to just get along. Similarly, Zinchenko's critique of the fast food industry might be summarized as a call for overweight people to take responsibility for their weight. Whenever you enter into a conversation with others in your writing, then it is extremely important that you go back to what those others have said, that you study it very closely, and that you not confuse it with something you already believe. A writer who fails to do this ends up essentially conversing with imaginary others who are really only the products of his or her own biases and preconceptions.